right, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out today, and I have to say that today is probably one of the largest attendance that we've had for the Hurricane Seminar. So, good morning. On behalf of the Shell Point leadership team, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2025 Hurricane Preparedness Seminar. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for making hurricane awareness, resilience, and collaboration a priority for our community. Each year, we gather not only because hurricanes remain a real threat to our region, but because we understand that preparation saves lives, protects properties, builds stronger, united communities. The science evolves and technology advances, but the mission remains the same. Be ready, stay informed, and help others do the same. Well, we're joined today by our long-time standing consulting meteorologist. You're going to hear the latest outlooks for the 2025 season, explore innovations in forecasting and communication, and discuss what readiness looks like at every level, from an individual home to statewide response. We'll also be taking some time this year to reflect on what we've learned from previous storms, what worked, what didn't, and what we can do to improve moving forward. Because each storm season is not just a challenge, it's an opportunity for us to do better. Well, it is my honor to introduce and welcome back Dave Roberts, who brings decades of experience and personalized support to Shell Point, and he who has been instrumental in shaping how we understand and respond to major events here at Shell Point. So please help me in welcoming Dave Roberts.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, appreciate you. Good to see all of you again. How is everyone this morning? Such a beautiful day, and why are we inside talking about hurricanes? I don't know. So I've been doing this a little bit, and I'm not sure when I first started here with Shell Point, but I believe it was about 25 years ago. That's how long I've been doing these. My hair is the same color. Isn't that amazing? So just to let you know, part of this seminar is sponsored by Just for Men. I'm not going to lie about that, but it is great to be with all of you again. You know, things keep changing here at Shell Point. I just want to show the first slide of my presentation, if you will. Things have changed a little bit over the years. This is the most recent picture that I've taken of Shell Point. This was taken right before the most recent construction, but I'm glad I got here in time. Next year, I may have to park in Cape Coral and take like a ferry across. It might be quicker. But that's the point about Shell Point, is there's always innovation going on here. You need to know that. And a funny story, about 10, 15 years ago, we were in between hurricanes. I was talking to some planners, and they said, man, I wish we had like a place like Shell Point to go during a hurricane, don't you? And so that's the kind of reputation that Shell Point is bringing to not just this part of Southwest Florida, but for the majority of Florida when it comes to preparation. And I just want you to know that I'm really proud to be a part of this team. The stuff that they come up with and the level of planning and detail that goes on here is really something else. So I just want to make that perfectly clear as we start off our seminar this morning. My goal today is to educate you on the basics and go under the hood, if you will, on how hurricanes work. And some of you might be new to living in Florida. How many of you are new within the last year or two moving to Florida? Raise your hand. Okay. I'm going to tell you some of the stuff that's on the back of the brochure that you didn't want to read. Okay. That's in the fine print. But I'm going to share it with you today. And one of the things that I always preach is don't be scared, be prepared. If you're prepared, there's really no reason for you to be scared. All right? They have facilities here that really are unmatched across many portions of our country. And so I want you to know that. And really what you're going to do here today is you're kind of going to become experts on this stuff. And when you see your neighbors, and there's two kinds of neighbors that don't go to these seminars. One, the ones that are too scared to even talk about hurricanes. And weather anxiety is a real thing, right? Okay? And the other that's like, we're not gonna have a hurricane here. I'm not worried about it. So you've got the deniers, you got the hurricane deniers, and then you've got the folks that are too scared to talk about it. But you getting the information is really gonna help, I think, with your neighbors in the time of need. Because let's be honest, we live in Florida, we get hurricanes, right? I mean, we do. I used to do these seminars. My first one I used to do, I'd say, it's been 40 years since the last hurricane. Literally. There was a 40-something year gap between hurricanes hitting Southwest Florida. Well, that gap is long gone. It just seems like there's always something going on. So on to the show we go. Hurricane Seminar 2025. And again, Shell Point has been seeing some changes in recent years. That's right, including with the hurricane plans. And we remember, if you were here, 2004, we had Hurricane Charley, which went just to the northwest of our location. Very fierce storm, a much smaller hurricane than Hurricane Ian, which is, of course, of more recent times, just from a couple years ago. Hurricane Ian was a huge hurricane and also tracked just to the northwest of Shell Point. Little comparison that folks don't realize, and you know, no two hurricanes are the same. Everybody likes to say, well, is this going to be a Katrina? Is this going to be an Andrew? Is this going to be an Ian? And I don't like to get into all of that, but I do want to just give you this comparison. Charley is right there in the center. Ian is surrounding it. You could fit 11 Hurricane Charlies inside Hurricane Ian. Yeah, that's a startling statistic, isn't it? By the way, on the right, that was me charting the hurricane. I was providing updates to the staff. Of course, that's something I hope to never do again, is clock 116 mile per hour wind gust right above Shell Point. But I saved it. I will be selling it on the internet. It's frameable for $29.90. No, I'm just kidding. But it's really something I hope to never see again. But that was real-time data that I was providing to the staff at Shell Point. Another comparison, on the right, that little dot is Tropical Storm Marco. On the left is Super Typhoon Tip that could take up the entire western half of the country. So every storm is different. And one of the things we don't get into is when I'm talking to the staff at Shell Point, they don't say, well, is this going to be just like this? Because every storm is so different, we kind of have to treat it as its own animal. When Ian came in, and that's the track on the upper left-hand corner of the screen, we had 160 mile per hour wind gusts. Okay, at landfall, 150 mile per hour winds, a peak storm surge of 15 feet, a horrible number of fatalities, and the damage, of course, was extensive in the billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. So here's the challenge again. I have charted every hurricane track on Earth since 1850. Florida is in there somewhere. You're going to have to trust me. All right. Again, I pose this challenge to each member of the audience. Nobody has redeemed this yet, but if you can find any track that I've missed, you are entitled to a free lunch at Citrola's down the street. Nobody has claimed the prize in all the years I've been doing this, but I'm just letting you know that does remain out there for you. It is available. All right, so on to our next graphic here. Let's talk about what do you need to produce a tropical system in the first place? Maybe you're from Michigan or Minnesota. There's a few of you that have come down here from there. And what do you need is warm ocean waters, the Gulf of Mexico. When we say warm, it's got to be 80 degrees or above. You don't want to know what the temperature is right now in the Gulf. So we've met that criteria. We meet that criteria many months out of the year. You have to have moist air. Do we have that around here? Yeah, although it doesn't seem like it lately without the lack of rain, right? And then low wind shear, which we always have a little bit of a breeze. We don't have much, but it's just enough. Too much wind, not going to get a hurricane. No wind, not going to get a hurricane, right in between. So this is the Atlantic and Gulf and Caribbean. We lump it all together, the tropical activity that you'll see from June 1st through November 30th. By the way, hurricane season, it's not regulated by any city council or ordinance, so we can get a tropical system in January, in February, in March, in December. But this is the main time that you're going to see weather. You're going to see action. What is interesting to me, I was at a hurricane conference in South Padre Island a few weeks ago. I know, really tough place to have a hurricane conference. And we went over a lot of data, and one of the things that's emerged is there are 3 distinct seasons in the season. All right, so if there's something new you're going to learn today, this is certainly one of them. Because if you ever notice, we have a hurricane season that starts off, and there's all this activity, and people say, oh boy, there's a storm already in April, there's a storm in May, oh, it's going to be a bad hurricane season. And then the rest of the season is dead. Or maybe the rest of the season doesn't even pick up again until September. Well, that's because there's 3 seasons. What we've seen is there's a peak of activity in July, okay? And that's typically in the Gulf of Mexico or in the Western Caribbean. And then as we go through the season here, we'll get to peak season where you have all kinds of activity, and that's coming out of the Atlantic, the main development region. and then it dies off again. And we think, oh, hurricane season's over. Isn't that great? Yeah. And then Halloween comes. Really, literally shows up. And Halloween gives us a late season bloom, if you will, of hurricane activity. So there's 3 seasons. Yeah, isn't that great? I know, you're all excited about that. I could see it. So, picture Dave Roberts, that's me. I'm 5 years old. And I think you've all been in this situation, right? Maybe if you have children, they've come to you and they go, Mommy, Daddy, how are hurricanes made? And, very awkward conversation ensued at the dinner table. My parents tried to explain it to me. I'm going to explain it to you the way they explained it to me. Thunderstorms form. They form into what we call a depression. We give a tropical depression a number. It gets a number. And then if it gets stronger, it becomes a tropical storm. We give it a name. By the way, names are reused every 6 years. So if you think you're having memory issues or deja vu and amnesia at the same time, you are when it comes to hurricane names. The only names that get retired are ones that are very bad storms. There won't be another Charlie, for instance. There won't be another Ian. There won't be another Katrina. There won't be another Andrew. Those storms stand out for good. And then if it gets bigger than a tropical storm, we're talking about hurricanes. And of course, nobody likes to talk too much about those because they pose some unique problems, especially to Shell Point. Storm surge. We all talk about storm surge. Here's an understanding for you on storm surge. The water that you see around Shell Point is pretty much the same all year round. You may notice it goes down a little bit, low tide, comes up a little bit, high tide. There's these differences. But when the hurricane is out there, or even a tropical storm, it creates these winds that pile up the water. And because the Caloosahatchee River's right here, you've got Sanibel Harbor right there, that water just piles into it, and it's got nowhere to go. And believe it or not, the worst storm surge is not here at Shell Point. The worst storm surge, believe it or not, is not even at Fort Myers Beach or Sanibel. It tends to be downtown Fort Myers or Alva. Think about it. Some of the highest storm surges in Southwest Florida have been recorded 20, 30 miles almost inland because the water has nowhere to go, so it just piles up into the river. So when we talk about hurricanes, and this is an important point to make, when you're talking about a Category 1 hurricane, we could deal with that here, no problem. But when you start talking about a Category 2, what's the difference? Well, how could a 10-mile-per-hour difference mean anything? I see people taking pictures of this graphic. Trust me, this is an interesting graphic to really put in perspective. Go ahead and do it. The difference between a Category 1 and a Category 3 hurricane, it's not 40 miles per hour. It's 50 times damage. 50 times damage. Anybody want to even talk about a Category 4 or Category 5? So when we start talking about storms like that, all bets are off, okay? All bets are off. And I can tell you, from a mentality standpoint, I worry about every hurricane or tropical storm that threatens Shell Point. I do, because they all have a different element of, disaster or peril. But when you start talking about these 4s or 5s, okay, and you're thinking, well, maybe I'm not going to listen to the folks here at Shell Point, you're making a huge mistake, okay? Because the damage potential is like that. It's not just a gradual uptick in winds. One of the things that we have to get across to everybody, and this is a reality of it, because of where we are, we get what's called a rapid intensification. You go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, you're talking about a tropical storm. No big deal, right? You wake up the next morning, you're having your cup of coffee, and you spit it out all over the place because you see that's now a Category 3 hurricane. One of the things that I do when I'm talking to the staff here is I say, listen, it's a tropical storm now, but this has a high potential to become a major hurricane in the next 24 to 48 hours. And that message needs to be clear to you as well. Understand, okay, that if they're telling you to do something, you should go along with the show. They've done this before. Not once. They've done this before a few times. Okay? And it's really important that you understand that you go to bed and it's a newborn puppy. And you wake up and it's a 7-year-old Rottweiler. Okay? You need to understand that. Really, because that's the nature of the beast. Hurricanes are these engines. That's what they are. They're engines. They suck up energy. Sometimes they don't get well formed and they just go kaput. And other times they just suck up that energy and they become literally this perfect engine. And so it's really important you understand that when we're talking about a Category 1 to a category 3 or 4, the damage potential is so much higher in those situations. It's not 20 miles per hour more. No, and just be aware, these things can change shape and dynamics very quickly. I want to show you what the actual winds from a hurricane can do. We're going to take a look at this house. It actually looks like my house, but watch what's happening here with the winds. I guess I should put music in next time, maybe, right? You know, in the background. But Noah put this together just to show what kind of damage you're going to get. Okay? So if you're one of those people that wants to wait till the last minute, not a great idea. Not a great idea. All right, so let's talk about the meat and potatoes here, okay? This is stuff that I do every year. I update. I go back to 1842. I wish I could go back further, but most folks, there's very little history here in Fort Myers back to that point. But within 50 miles of Shell Point, there have been 76 tropical systems. About 2/3 of the tropical systems are tropical storms or depressions. That's good news. They're typically not all that bad, right? But 1/3 of them have been hurricanes. And I can tell you about half of those have been major hurricanes. So you get about a hurricane every 7 years here in Shell Point. You get a major hurricane every 13 years. I say here in Shell Point, I'm going within 50 miles, if that's okay for our purposes. I could do direct line over us, but that's not fair because there's lots of storms that go 40 miles away and do quite a bit of damage. But there have been quiet gaps of 15 to 40 years. There are many gaps that I have found over history. I'm looking at the data and I go, did they just not record any hurricanes back then? But I'll look and I'll see, wow, 1860 to 1875, not much out there. But the bottom line is, we don't get a hurricane every year, okay? But we do get a threat of a tropical system every 3.5 years. So about every 40-something months or so, there's going to be some kind of hurricane threat. Now, you've all heard of El Nino and La Nina, and we use all these terms. I'm going to give you the brief overview. El Nino. Warm water in the Pacific Ocean means it's cooler in the Gulf and the Atlantic. We like El Nino. Why? Because it pushes the jet stream across the Gulf of Mexico, and that makes it very hard for hurricanes to get here. As they're forming, they get sheared apart in the Gulf. As they're forming in the Atlantic, they're getting pushed away in the Atlantic. So we tend to see more activity just basically getting stifled away and pushed away from us. So keep that in mind. We like El Nino. Then we've got La Nina, which is the opposite. It's colder in the Pacific, warmer in the Gulf, and guess what? The jet stream's farther north, it's open season. It's like, hey, welcome to Florida. Hurricanes, come here. And that's basically what you're talking about when you're dealing with a La Nina. So everybody wants to know, okay, what's this year going to be, right? What is this year? Well, would you believe? I just got the latest analysis last week. It suggests we're in a neutral. Someone said, that's a meteorologist for you, right? 50-50. I'm going to say I was in this relationship once, and I'll never forget. She said, look, is it going to rain this weekend? I need to know what to wear. And I said, well, there's a 30% chance for rain. And she says, can't you give me a straight answer? And I said, I'm a meteorologist. What's the matter with you? How dare you? Anyway, El Nino on the left gives you an example. La Nina on the right shows you the problem. Got it? So we're kind of in between this year. Doesn't make a difference. Every year, I can tell you what, it only takes one hurricane, right? One hurricane's going to ruin the day, ruin the party. Give you an example, 1992 was a very quiet year for hurricanes. Anybody know what happened in 1992? Andrew, that's right, you all knew that, didn't you? Hurricane Andrew hit in 1992. Go tell the people in Homestead that it was a quiet hurricane season. See how that goes for you. We are expecting an above average hurricane season. Don't panic, don't worry, it doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. Because again, as I've told you, all it takes is one hurricane. I've been through a hurricane season where we had 25 plus storms. Guess what? Not one of them hit Shell Point. So pay attention to the weather, okay? The good news is everybody in today's day and age is a backseat meteorologist. In fact, my good friend Linda right there in the crowd, she was telling, I'm so confused. I said, why? She goes, my app said it was going to rain in 20 minutes. I said, I'm your app. I mean, your app. What does that mean? So understand, stay weather aware this time of year to know what's going on. Oh, when it comes to the hurricane plots, anybody like spaghetti? I love spaghetti. I love the spaghetti plot. It's my favorite thing. That shows you Hurricane Ian. And people say, I don't know why Ian turned in. Well, It's right there, folks. Now, that center line, well, that center line sounds great, doesn't it? Wouldn't it have been wonderful had that just thing gone up to Tampa and not even come close to here? But that's the center line. That's not how you do a hurricane forecast. I look at all these models. I got to be honest with you. I have a headache usually before 8 o'clock in the morning most days when it's an active hurricane season. You have to know what you're looking at. You have to know what you're looking at. Because some of the models are what I call used car models. Not that there's anything wrong with pre-owned cars, by the way. Or the pre-owned car sales people. But I will tell you that some of these models, got to be careful, they'll lead you astray. So understand that the models show you one thing. The cone means statistically you've got about 2 in 3 chance of being directly hit by the storm. Guess what? We were in the cone for Ian. We were on the edge of the cone, but we were in the cone. And I can tell you right now, one of the things that I learned many years ago, you don't take that for granted. If you're touched by the cone, you're on the edge of it, you're still in the cone. So always keep that in mind. And now we've got new warnings and watches. This may get confusing because they're going to change it for inland areas. It doesn't really change things much for Shell Point, so don't worry about all that. If we were having this discussion in Lehigh or LaBelle or Arcadia, yeah, this would be more relevant. But I do want you to know they're doing things differently now with the hurricane cone. And I want to tell you something, too. We're now using AI. Y'all heard of AI? Okay, I'm a real person. I'm not AI, in case you were wondering. But AI is being used more and more now in hurricane prediction. And yes, you are going to see an improvement, a dramatic improvement in the next 3 to 5 years in hurricane prediction. It's coming that quickly. And I actually was watching some of the AI models that they were using in this conference recently. And the AI did a great job. It did a great job knowing, updating where the hurricane's going to go because there's so much data to look at. The more data you pour in, the more output you're going to get. And so that's the great thing about it. You all came here this morning. Hopefully you have more data, okay? And hopefully you have a better education and understanding of hurricane season. I hope I was able to do that for you. I'll be available at the end of the seminar if you have any additional questions. But I want to thank you again for welcoming me here today. It's always a pleasure to speak to my folks at Shell Point. There's a lot of you that I recognize that I've become friends with over the years, and I look forward to seeing you again. I hope it's a very quiet hurricane season for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jimmy Magus, and I am your new Director of Safety and Security. So what that means is that thanks to Jason and everybody, I am now the hurricane so-called expert here for Shell Point. So everything will go good this year, correct? All right. So thank you again, Dave, for the updates. Hurricane plan, we're going to talk about the hurricane plan. We're going to talk about changes to the 2025 hurricane plan. We're going to go over a little bit about operations. We'll talk about, we have a special guest from the Lee County Sheriff's Office that's going to give you a little bit of a breakdown. And then we're going to kind of do a recap. All right, here we go. Uh-oh.
Don't look at me, I didn't do it.
Okay. Our hurricane plan, okay, what it does, the plan takes into consideration the significant size and the diverse scope of the population here at Shell Point and seeks to protect from the destructive capabilities of a hurricane, right? That's our main goal. First and foremost, we want to make sure that you all, our residents and our staff are safe, and along with our facilities here, our whole entire campus. Right? Shell Point residents are strongly encouraged to evacuate off-site and must have a reliable place to stay that will be spared from the storm's path. As Dave said, you don't want to wait to the last minute, right? I've been through, prior to me here, I was with the Lee Health for about 10 years, and prior to that, I was with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. So I remember going to bed at 6 o'clock in the morning when Hurricane Charlie was supposed to hit Tampa. And then all of a sudden at 10 o'clock in the morning, they're knocking on my door and saying, oh no, the storm is coming our way. okay? So now is the time to prepare. We don't want you to leave within 6 to 8 hours and you get nervous and then you want to go somewhere. Have the plan now. When you evacuate, make sure that your evacuation plan is that you're not running up to the storm, but away from the storm, wherever that's going to be. Make sense? Okay. Make sure I get this again. Shell Point, our retirement community hurricane shelters, right? The second floor of the island parking garage for independent living residents. So the garage will be for our independent residents that can take shelter there. Again, we prefer you to evacuate the area, all right? Our Larson Health Center for all healthcare residents, the Springs Assisted Living Facility, our, Connected Living, our Arbor, King's Crown, and our special needs, medical needs residents identified in the independent living group. So we have the two, right? We have the Larson shelter, and then we also have then the garage, okay? Is staying in the shelter comfortable? It is? I've been, yeah, you don't want to be outside, right? But I'd rather not be in a shelter. I'd rather be away. But for the last 30 years in first responder and all that, I've always had to stay. I send my family away, okay? I do not have them stay when we are within, as Dave said, within the cone. I already have a predetermined place where they are going to go to and going to be safe, all right? And that's the same thing what I want for you all too, all right? Next slide. Okay, so overall changes to the 2025 hurricane plan is from a Category 1 through a Category 5 on the Stafford-Simpson hurricane intensity scale, right? Independent assisted living residents. Should the storm strengthen and be predicted to be at a Cat 1 through a 5, full evacuation to the island shelter and the Larson Health Center. So from a Cat 1 through a Cat 5, we are requesting that everyone either evacuate or they have to go to the shelter. And the main reason is, as David mentioned, is the rapid intensification, okay? We need you to be safe. Again, going to bed at nighttime and then waking up. Storms can move faster, they can move slower. It's unpredictable. The size of the storm. We don't want to be evacuating during the outer bands that are coming that can be a risk not only to you, but to our staff. Okay, so that is one of our big changes, that we are going to open up the shelters, no matter if it's a Cat 1 through a Cat 5. And if we are under the evacuation orders, that we would like and we recommend that all independent living to evacuate off of the campus. Okay. Larson Health Center, during any storm, regardless of the category, residents will be sheltering in place. All right. Shell Point Incident, so our operational overview. Our incident management team has been established, so we are ready to go for the 2025 hurricane season, right? So our command staff, where everybody is supposed to be, who's in charge of what, who's responsible, is in place, and it is ready to go for this upcoming season. Hurricane plan has been reviewed and has been approved, so it's ready to go. So what our plan is as of today, it is going to be implemented and we are ready to go. So be assured that our plan, we are good, okay? Shell Point leadership and management staff have their roles and responsibilities, as I said, responsibilities prepared and ready to assign based on the 2025 hurricane plan, okay? So we have our special guest today from the Lee County Sheriff's Office. it is Staff Officer Sherman from Lee County Sheriff's Office. So if you give him a big round of applause, please.
Good morning, everyone. I've met some of you. I've worked on and off with Shell Point for about 5-6 years now as your community liaison. And I'm here to give a little different perspective. I'm born and raised. I was in Miami for Hurricane Andrew. I've gone through Charlie and all the storms in between. We don't know when a storm is coming. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is preparing when you leave here. What is your plan A? What is your plan B? We hope we never need it. But when we're in the cone of uncertainty, that's not the time to start saying, okay, am I gonna stay here, shelter in place, or am I gonna leave? Where am I gonna go? Let me get some of my meds together and whatever my needs are. That's not the time to do it. I gave you a list we handed out. If you didn't get one, we're gonna be, Shell Point's gonna put it out for the residents online. This is just a suggestion. It's gonna change per household. There's also even a section here for those that have pets, thinking about your pets. But there's different ways you could prepare. You could have each member of your family, whether it's a rolling suitcase, a backpack, or I've seen many cases, people will go to Home Depot and pick up a bucket. I didn't want to spend the money on a bucket. I got a free pickle bucket from the restaurant. Why do you use these things? To have those items ready to go so you're not running around when that storm changes overnight. You're not scrambling to get things together. Oh, is my car full? Where am I heading? Let me make hotel plans, whatever it is. You can go to your closet or somewhere in your home and grab that bag or that bucket or that suitcase or duffel, each one for a member of the family. When you put that bag together with your needs, put a piece of tape on it, mark the date. And every 6 months, or I usually recommend at the beginning of hurricane season, open up that bag. Check the batteries in your flashlight. If you have snacks or so forth in it, swap out the snacks. Change out what you need, and just, if you have a weather radio, make sure it still works. Don't leave your batteries inside the weather radio, keep them separate, but have that ready to go. It's a small little insurance. I was out on Fort Myers Beach doing rescue the day after the storm. Then when we got to a certain point, I was going daily on Sanibel by boat. People did not prepare, or they said, well, I've lived here so many years, I didn't think about leaving. The sheriff's office, the fire department, and EMS is not coming for you during the storm. When the winds get to a certain speed, all agencies are ordered off the roads. And it's nothing more heartbreaking in years past, like Irma, where I'm watching the calls come in, and there was a lady who left the beach late, got caught up in the storm surge, and she's calling for help. We couldn't get to her. Or there was a family, or there was an individual in a roof, rafters, trying to escape the storm surge, saying that the water was overtaken. We couldn't get to him. After the storm, my fire department counterpart said they had over 2,000 pending calls. We had over 1,200 pending calls when it was finally safe. And we don't wait for like a day later. As soon as the winds get to a certain, they send us out. But you can imagine, not only do you have all those calls pending, but you've got other calls now coming in as family members up north see devastation. Can you check on my family member? Or unfortunately, we see health issues where people have medical issues during the storm. And even though the fire department, the sheriff's office, we have airboats, we have swamp buggies, there's not enough. So if you have medical needs, make arrangements, whether it's with Shell Point or have that plan B to go somewhere else. I always say, phone a friend. Call your friend when you leave here today that maybe lives on a different part of the state and say, hey, if the weather gets bad, can I come to your house? Or kind of look for an area that you might go to. All right, this area doesn't seem to get a lot of storms. You can't make a hotel reservation, but you kind of have an idea where you're going to call. There's a resident that told me that every time we get into the hurricanes coming, He's got a little hotel motel he goes to out towards Lehigh. Wherever it is, whatever county it is, make the preparations. And also, have a friend in the community that you can say, hey, I'm leaving town, here's a number, or this is where I'm going. So if something happens, there's any question, someone could say, yeah, Sally Joe went over to Palm Beach, here's a number. Because after the storm, there's people coming in from all over the country. We had rescuers, ambulances as far as Seattle, Washington. They don't know our area. And when you're going out, street signs are gone, they don't know the communities. The more information we can get, if you can take yourself out of the equation, go to someplace safe. I remember talking to some of the safety team from the community after Irma and them telling me that they were out wading in water chest high in some of the parts of the community to help the residents. If the fewer residents that could put themselves in harm's way, the better it is for your staff that will do anything to serve you, but make preparations. That's a big thing to say. Make preparations and have a plan, have it in place. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. Being prepared, right? It is strongly recommended and encouraged that residents plan to evacuate their residents at Shell Point in the event of a hurricane. Okay? Have that plan. Cannot stress it enough to you. All right? We do not want anyone to be caught off guard. All right? Gather essentials that will keep you safe, informed, comfortable before, during, and after the storm, right? So you have that time before the storm, you have the time during the storm, and then that after the storm, right? No water, possibly no power, making sure that you have your medications, right? I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I have to make sure that I have all my insulin just in case, and then I have to keep my insulin refrigerated, correct? So I need to make sure that I have the coolers that are properly. It's those small little things to make sure, okay? Make a plan to where you will park your vehicles during a storm. If you choose to leave automobiles and golf carts on site, they must stay in their designated parking areas. Electric cars should be moved off campus for safety, right? So again, have the plan for your vehicles, right? I will tell you, when I was with Lee Health at Health Park in Golisano Children's Hospital, employees, they lost over 600 vehicles alone, okay? So, and then we all know about with the golf carts and batteries and that. So if you have electric vehicles, I would get them to a high and dry safe area, okay? Shell Point is located in Lee County evacuation. We are in Zone A. You hear about Zone A's, B's, C's, D's, and that. So we are in Zone A. We are that first zone. We are at the lowest point. Okay? So make sure, so when you hear that evacuation, mandatory evacuations, and that is Zone A, that is us here at Shell Point. Okay? When Shell Point or Lee County orders an evacuation for community residents are required to leave their residence. Okay? As Staff Officer Sherman said, first responders, if it gets bad, they will not come out. And it is heartbreaking that we're on standby. When I was with the Sheriff's Department, and as he said, we're getting these calls that are coming in and we can't do nothing about it, because it's unsafe for first responders to go out there. Don't know what's in the road, debris, a lot of hazards, and they need to make sure that the roads are clear, okay? Do not put yourself at risk remaining in your independent living unit during a mandatory evacuation. Again, the theme is you need to evacuate, okay? Need to evacuate. Before evacuating, take time to properly repair your home. Again, turn off your ice makers and either transfer the ice to our freezer bags to keep them frozen. Items cool or empty the ice bins into the sink to avoid leaks or melts, right? You don't want to come home and have all the water all over the place, right? The ice, don't waste it. It's going to be precious. So if you have a cooler, keep it there for either to keep medications that need to be chilled or cold, or just, to have a cold drink, because we know water can get warm real quick, right? So remove any food from the refrigerator or freezer that could spill or leak if thawed. Secure patio furniture, bicycles, and other outdoors belongings. Unplug your golf carts, please. All right, and we're going to make sure that they're in a safe spot. And close and lock all windows and exterior doors. Okay. That's all for my part. Again, be prepared. All right, be prepared. Have your plan right now. That's what we want you to do. Okay? I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you also for our partners at the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and then also Dave Roberts. We love your tie, as always. Thank you, Jimmy. And before I go any further today, I think that the point has been very clear. I just want to express one critical point. And that's, if you have the ability to evacuate off property ahead of the storm, that will always be the best option. So let me be clear, our shelters are safe, and safety is and will always be our top priority. But I also want to be honest with you, our shelters are not comfortable, and we can do everything, but we can't eliminate the heat, the noise, the harsh lighting, the hard chairs, the limited access to running water, lack of privacy, the reliance of our portable toilets, the small amounts of food and basic food items, and limited resources. But we all know this, right? And we don't say this to discourage you, but we say all this to encourage you to have a plan. So if you're able, I strongly urge you to develop a contingency plan now. Identify friends and family that you can stay with, or look at hotels or shelters outside of the storm's path that are further inland and out of the immediate storm zone. Have a plan and be ready, because we will always be here to provide shelter for those that need it. And at the end of the day, the more prepared that you are to evacuate, the better off you're going to be, and the better off Shell Point as a whole is going to be as well. So again, our shelters are safe and they're here for you, but they are a last resort. And if you can leave safely, that's always the advice. And now I'd like to introduce Janine Hammond, our Director of Cognitive and Behavioral Health. Janine and her dedicated team play a critical role in the hurricane preparedness efforts here at Shell Point. They manage the resident hurricane application process, ensuring our independent residents are assigned to the appropriate shelter here at Shell Point. And whether that is with medical, cognitive, or behavioral needs, they're assessed properly. Throughout this individualized approach, it helps provide not just safety, but the right levels of care for those residents. So please help me in welcoming Janine Hammond to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today, and thank you for the team of people that Shell Point has pulled together to put this plan together to help keep us all safe and well prepared for hurricane season. So the things that I'm going to talk about today are Larson Health Center shelter, the health shelter application process, the process by which those applications will be reviewed, and we always like to touch on medical equipment and supplies, and then also just being prepared for power outages during storm season. So Larson Health Center, as we've already touched on, is the shelter for all of our assisted living here on campus and for our Larson Health Center residents. So residents that are in Larson Health Center skilled nursing will remain in place. We also have limited space for independent living residents who are qualified by that application process that we are going to talk about. Very good, thank you. So independent living residents who medically qualify to shelter at the Larson Health Center, there will be a link to an application. We've used a similar process in years past. One of the things that's different, we are only asking residents that have medical needs that you think are best met with our healthcare group, that you are the only people that need to fill out that application. It is not a survey, as we've done in other years, where we're asking everyone to complete it. So if your plan is to leave campus, your plan is to go to the island shelter, and there's no issues with that, you do not have to complete that application. If you think that you have a medical need that would qualify you, you fill out the application. That application link will go out on Thursday in News at the Point, and then it will also be available through WellZesta. We are asking you, we're giving you about 2 weeks to complete those applications so that we have time to review them. So by June 6th is our ask that you have those applications completed. If you need assistance, our Healthy Living Coordination Team is available. They can help you access that and help you with completing that if you need assistance or if you have questions. So the process for that, the Healthy Living Coordinator teams are coordinators are not the people that are making these decisions. They're helping to gather that information, accumulate all the information that you're submitting, and then we get that to the clinical team. So they are essential in the process, but they are not the ones that are making the decisions. It is a clinical decision team involving our medical director, so Dr. Goforth, Dr. Candelori. We have our chief nursing officer for the community. So a lot of eyes that would be on that information to help us determine, with the limited amount of space that we have to house independent living residents at the healthcare shelter, who needs that level of care. And then any resident that submits an application, you will receive a response back letting you know whether you're approved to go to the healthcare shelter or if you should plan to go to the island shelter. So we will issue that letter to you. Medical equipment and supplies. So I just want to stress to you that now is the time to prepare, as you've heard from many of our speakers this morning. And you need to be responsible for bringing all of those necessary items with you to the shelter. Doesn't matter which shelter you're coming to, you still need to bring those medical equipment and supplies that you need. So, 2 weeks supply of medication, to put that aside and to have that available and ready. We do not plan on being in the shelter for 2 weeks, but we've learned from previous situations that sometimes there can be a span of time until we can get back into our homes. And so we want to make sure that you're prepared with the medications that you need. Personal care items, personal hygiene supplies. If you use incontinence briefs, bring those with you. We want to make sure that you're well prepared. Medical devices like oxygen concentrators, if you are on oxygen, if you use a nebulizer, if you have a CPAP or a BiPAP, we do not supply those in the shelter. You do need to bring those with you. And any special dietary needs. Jason and his team do a wonderful job of providing meals and snacks and beverages, but if you do have special dietary needs, keep those in mind and come prepared with that. They're not able to meet special dietary needs when feeding the group of residents that we have in the shelter. So power outages. This comment is not just for hurricane season, but just storm season in general. We know last year we had plenty of power outages, power surges, things happen. So if you rely on electrically powered medical equipment, please make sure that you have a backup plan in place. If you're on oxygen, your oxygen supply company, you want to request from them to have oxygen tanks on hand, or if you have a battery backup. battery backups for CPAP, BiPAP, nebulizers. If you use an electric wheelchair and that's your main way of getting around, it's good to have a battery backup of some kind or that you can charge that to help you get around in the event of an extended power outage. And then, as Jimmy had mentioned, diabetic medications, insulin, a very common one. If you do have medication that needs to be refrigerated, we can refrigerate medication for you in both shelters, but you want to make sure that you have what you need to keep them cold on the way to the shelter until we can get that settled when you're settled. So keeping a cooler and some ice packs on hand to keep your medications cold. And that's the extent of my comments for the hurricane shelter from a healthcare perspective. And I think we're all done then. Everyone has shared their words. I thank you all so much for coming out today, helping to get us prepared for what we hope is nothing. So thank you so much. Have a great day.